the school committee meeting of May 2nd. You have before you an agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll move on. Superintendent's report.
Absolutely. Well, we'll start with enrollment. So this month, we are up 4 students from last month from 1,721 students to 1,725. So we're slowly creeping up a little bit. 3 new students are at NES and 1 at CPS. So that is our new enrollment for this month. In talking a little bit about recruitment and hiring and staffing, we are chipping away with recruitment and hiring for open positions for the next school year. We have a few positions that we've been able to hire for. We currently have 27 officially, 27 teacher positions open across the district and 2 administrator positions. That could change in the course of the next few days as we solidify some of those positions that are being interviewed for and just need to have a final interview with me before they move forward and we move forward. So just this week we had 2 good interviews with candidates for the L director position and the curriculum director for humanities position, and I will be planning to follow up with both of those candidates shortly about next steps. We have one more job fair that we're planning to attend. Bridgewater State University Educator Job Fair is coming up on tomorrow, actually, 4 to 6 p.m. And we only have Ms. Gately there, but she will do an excellent job at representing Nantucket and hooking all those new students to have them come and work on the island. So one other exciting piece of news I wanted to share with you is a shift in administration from CPS to NHS as our big bubble of students coming through the middle school heads to the high school. I am pleased to share that Tracy Maylou, who is currently an assistant principal at CPS, will be joining the NHS team next year to support high school students as an additional assistant principal there. So they're very excited to have her. Yes, that's great. Yay. Additional updates, I just wanted to share that on Friday I attended a full-day housing summit with a large variety of key stakeholders in the town to discuss and find solutions for our housing crisis. It was definitely important to have the voice of the public schools, as we are often not considered as part of a group, strangely enough. However, I think that our voice is getting louder, and that's good. It's important that they understand how important it is to find viable housing solutions for our staff. The one thing that was a challenge for me, I would say, is that although the focus of this meeting was more future thinking about new building and development within the coming years, that doesn't necessarily solve the problem that we're faced with today. We have present issues that we in particular are facing, that we have to house those 27 positions that we are that are open, and we need as much assistance as we can get to consider how we are going to house that new staff to teach the island's children. So I did bring that up as part of the summit, just to say that although it's really important and it's excellent that we're looking forward, we still have issues that are much more urgent presently for some of us. So I certainly will share more information as I get it from this group, and let you know as we learn more about how the town is going to be shifting priorities and working really hard to create sustainable housing. Finally, yesterday, I successfully completed my new superintendent's induction program after 3 years. It was a great day with lots of meaningful reflection. We really thought carefully about where we started and how much we have grown as the group known as the COVID superintendents. So just to share that being a superintendent is a lonely job. And I'm extremely grateful for this group of people that I came to know across the Commonwealth, and having the opportunity to have gone through this valuable mentoring experience with them was really meaningful. And there's no doubt that I will be staying in touch with my colleagues across this group and my program coaches as well. So I'm excited to share that with you. And that's it.
Questions?
No questions, sir.
No questions.
Congratulations on graduating.
Thank you very much. I graduated.
No cap and gown?
No, nothing for that, but that's okay.
Okay, good.
That's great.
Moving on to presentations and discussions of issues of interest to the committee. Third quarter budget update.
Good evening. Martin Angelov, Chief Financial Officer. Third quarter expenses this year have grown by $1.271 million in total over the previous fiscal year and stand at 68% expanded budget, which is the same as last year. So we are right within where we were last year. Payroll has increased by a little over $665,000 and is at, I believe, 59% this year as opposed to 58%. So these are normal differences as far as percentage of budget expended at this stage of the fiscal year. I want to draw attention to two particular expense items. One of them is repair and maintenance and utilities. This year have grown by a little over $190,000. Some increase of that is utilities, some is normal repair and maintenance, and around $100,000 is due to vandalism. So that could have been avoided and would have been available for our end of year spending, which this year we're closely monitoring in light of the fact that we're in negotiations and there is somewhat still a certain uncertainty about the final contract for teachers. So the other part is professional services, and this year the major expenses there, it's grown by a little over $370,000. We've expanded around that amount on consultants within the special education department. As you are aware, we have some positions that have been unfilled for therapists and for speech and language. So we've expanded, we've contracted with different providers to provide those services, and that's why you see an increase in professional services account at this stage. The community school total revenues show a $165,000 increase. As is a habit, I always do that in light of the fact that we've had an increase in appropriation. So we want to focus on program revenues and as opposed to money that come from the general fund in the form of a subsidy. So this year we have a $550,000 subsidy. Last year was $500,000. So the actual program revenues are a little over $115,000 over last year, which is a positive sign. Expenses have grown as well, close to $207,000 in total. Some of it is medical insurance costs, close to $32,000, and others is just contractual obligations and the fact that community school has expanded operations in certain areas and has been able to hire, and that's brought up the payroll expenses to be higher this year than at this stage last year. The school lunch program, now it shows a deficit right now of a little over $66,000 compared to a little over $32,000 last year, but due to the ransomware attack, this posed numerous challenges in our federal and state reimbursements. As you are aware, this year, as it has been in the past 2 years, all meals are free to all students. So we rely on federal and state reimbursements, and it was a challenge. We filed February and March. January was done relatively late as well because we didn't have access to the information. So it took time for us to get the reports and get all the figures and submit them. So we're, as of today, current. We've submitted all the reimbursements. Linda Peterson has worked tirelessly. The information was just not available, so we had to wait until some of the services were restored so we can get the information and submit correct numbers to the state and federal. As you are aware, this year we're being reimbursed at a relatively high rate at $4.47 for a lunch and $2.26 for breakfast. So the participation rates have been solid this year as they were last year. So we are hopeful that we'll finish within the budgeted subsidy. Just a note: the budgeted subsidy this year is about $127,000 for the school lunch program. I believe we'll finish anywhere between 60 and 80. But we'll see how we do the rest of the year. And that's that deficit by law we have to cover with our operating budget. So with that, I'll open it to questions.
Questions? Esmeralda?
No questions.
No questions.
No questions?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. I think I'm next too, so I'm going to
Yes.
stay.
The Martin show tonight.
The audit report, the end of year report. This is an examination of the financial statements. It includes all revenues and all expenses that are related to the school district. That does not finish with just the operating budget. We have obviously revolving accounts, we have gift accounts, we have the community school is included in those numbers at the end of year report as well, and we do have some federal and state grants. So this year, in total, net school spending is how they call it for the school. All related expenses was over $51 million. I was in a conversation today, and I actually thought it's around 48, but when I looked at the report, it's over 51 million. I'm sorry, $51 million have been expended in total. That includes debt service on school-related capital improvements. That includes retirement obligations. That includes medical insurance costs for both active and retirees and active employees. So we don't see these expenses on our end. They're covered by the town in Article 8 in a separate category. But I just want to make everybody aware of where we are. It's a substantial funding, and we have to be very thankful to all the taxpayers and the donors and everybody that contributes in any kind of way, whether it's to the community school, to the Nantucket Public School, and in any kind of supportive way, because it's not just obviously taxpayers' money, but we do have a lot of gifts that go to the community school, and so we have a very generous community. So that's the end of year report. The end of year report had no findings. That's the 6th consecutive year. For a third year, though, we do have a general compliance item. That general compliance item has to do with our accounting system. We've discussed this with town. I believe the discussion started back in 2006 by the previous chief financial officer of the school, Mr. Glenn Field. There were consultants hired, and they were brought on island to work on the sequence. It is a very methodical, technical kind of way to set up our accounting system to match how the state wants us to group. So what happens now is I take all the information from Munis, and I have to do a bridged spreadsheets to repurpose all the expenses to the categories that Department of Education requires us to report. If we ever reach the stage of fixing that issue and having our accounting system in line, that end of year report will be, for me, it will be so much easier, because literally everything will fall where it belongs, and it will flow into the way state wants us to report revenues and expenses. So I've spoken with town. It's a major undertaking. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know how we go about it, because obviously town has their reporting. They're reporting to the Department of Revenue. We report to the Department of Education. It's a different way to present revenues and expenses, but at the end of the day, we have to be capable of satisfying that condition, because that's been a third year going now that we have that general compliance finding. So we have to find a way to work through this and get it done. But other than that, that was all.
Esmeralda?
No questions.
Thank you, Martin. Just congratulations on having another clean audit.
Thank you.
And thank you for all the additional work that you're doing. That's just nuts to me that, the state doesn't reflect what the town is doing and what the state requires. And I can't even imagine taking a year's worth of data and having to transfer that into a different format.
It's right now it's set up. So on my end, I've preset these spreadsheets. That was a big challenge with the ransomware attack, whether I'll be able to recover these templates, because they took a full year to develop. But they were started by Glenn Field, and then I just redid them, because they've added a lot of categories, and every year there is new reporting changes. If we ever reach the stage of having our accounting system set up the way it should be, the way the state, they're thinking, I think there's 2 states, if I'm not mistaken, one of them being Rhode Island, where they literally take their end of year report, they take a year-to-date budget report, like all these attachments that I've added, and they put it into a format, and it pre-populates the end of year report for them. That's what Massachusetts is striving for. I think that's why they're starting to clamp down on districts that are not compliant in that way. Like I said, for me it's going to be much easier. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks. Wellness Committee update.
Good evening. My name is Michael Horton. I'm the Cyrus Pierce Middle School principal, and I'm joined tonight by Mary Lepre, who is the Nantucket Elementary School nurse. Together, we have been co-leading, co-chairing this year's Wellness Committee. We really probably got together in March, I would say.
Yeah.
Had kind of a late start, but I'm here to report tonight our update of what we've accomplished so far. Members of the committee, all four school nurses, Mary from NES, Nancy Small, NIS, Camilla McGarvey, CPS, and Kelsey Perkins at the high school. And then at least one wellness teacher from each building, Michelle Boudet from NES, Michelle Olson, NIS, Bo Almodovar from CPS, and Natalie Thompson from Nantucket High School. And then Tracy Nichols is officially our community member. Linda Peterson represents food services, Chartwells. I represent administration as a CPS principal, and Dr. Lepre is on this committee for a representative from the school committee. So the first thing we did was define our mission and purpose, and we set a couple goals. And at our first meeting, we decided that our first goal was just to kind of take inventory, status report, review the current school district wellness program policy ADF in your school committee policy manual, and the school district wellness program rules and procedures, that's ADF-R&P. We accomplished that, and we recognize that we're not the committee that makes policy. We inform your policy subcommittee of some suggestions or edits or things you might want to consider as the school committee. Looking at the current wellness policy ADF, there's four main components. It really establishes that there's a committee that will evaluate the school wellness program from time to time. We do need a parent rep. There's a few names there that are all parents, so we could technically do some double duty, but we'd like to reach out and include a parent to our group. We need to recruit a student rep, and then we also, in this kind of definition of the committee, need to update the superintendent info, because Mr. Kozar's info is still prominent on the first page. And as we said, we've had 2 meetings so far. The second component is all about physical education. Within physical education, talks about training of your staff, encouraging students to walk, bike to school. I just want to put a plug out there that tomorrow is one of the 3 days of the National Safe Routes to School Day. So it's walk, bike, and roll to school is how Massachusetts is branding it. That's tomorrow, Wednesday, May 3rd. So all parents listening, please try to carpool, encourage your students to bike to school, walk to school safely. The intention is to reduce the carbon footprint on the environment and reduce traffic. Another component is physical activity during the school day, and that also connects to recess, athletics, and other activities before and after the school day. The third component is the nutrition education. This is all of the aspects that fall within the food lunch program. This is why Linda Peterson is a huge member of this committee, to review the school lunch program, look at the school breakfast program, and ensure that nutrition is included in the health curriculum. The last component is evaluation of curriculum within our wellness classes. It needs to be reviewed regularly for alignment to Massachusetts state standards. It is a little bit of a challenge because, and I know wellness teachers have known this for years, the Massachusetts health curriculum standards have not been updated since 1999, so we're going on 24 years. So our teachers keep those standards as their core, but they tend to look at the national curriculum standards for wellness and PE to get up with more current topics and learning topics. So I'm going to turn over to Mary. She did some research and found a really interesting step that will help inform us for our next step.
So I can't take a ton of credit for this because Dr. Hallett actually emailed it to me, but it's the Massachusetts School Wellness Coaching Program. So I submitted our interest survey and with our policies, and they will break everyone up into 2 tiers. So either the school wellness coach will get us assigned a school wellness coach that will either help us update our policies to meet the state and federal requirements, or to help us help the wellness committee prioritize and implement wellness initiatives. So I'm just waiting to hear back from them, but I filled out the paperwork, the survey, and sent it in. Is that it?
So that's just good to get some outside expert advice, a consultant to look at our information and give us some feedback on what we might need to update. My sense is we're in pretty good shape, but this is a good step that we welcome. So I believe this is my last slide. So I don't know if I have new world record pace for one of my presentations. But here we are with our next steps. What was missing when we looked at the wellness program policy is, should it include mental health, emotional health, and social emotional learning, or SEL? There are plenty of other pages of policy that address those topics, but it seemed a little bit off that it wasn't mentioned at all in 5 pages of the document. So I'm not saying whether we need to expand that to a 40-page document, but maybe make some cross connections or allude to other school committee policies that you have in place. Should there be a specific section on substance abuse education? It is mentioned briefly, almost just like a bullet, but it seems as though with the vaping epidemic we've had the last couple of years, there should be a little bit more substance to that portion of this policy. Linda is working with Chartwells to review and confirm all the rules and procedures, all rules and policies. It talks about the 1/3 daily allowance of different vitamins, of calories, of other nutrition information. She's going to check that. And then part of my work is communicating with the other building principals. And the 4 of us make sure over the summer, as we look at our school handbooks, we work with our school councils to just confirm that we are consistent on our district-wide rules on gum, candy, soda, and sweets. There's very strict language that the food service program cannot sell any of these items, but I know at CPS they're rampant. And part of that is because it actually doesn't exist in the current school handbook policy at CPS. And I'm getting a little tired of picking up gum on the floor and candy wrappers and asking students to spit out their gum or lollipops. That is probably going to be a gradual process. And again, changing a school handbook that works through the school councils. So most likely that's a summer into next year change for September. I do believe that at NES and NIS, they're actually stricter than the middle school about cookies and birthday parties. NES?
Not at NES.
Okay. So this is the conversation the 4 principals should have about aligning us to, if it's a no here, why are we, in some cases teachers are giving away candy, which, I've been guilty of buying Coca-Cola for the staff every week. So I need to start there and lead by example. But it's definitely something that we have to discuss and make sure we're all on the same page. Any other last comments or?
No, I just think that it would be a good idea if the rules behind having cupcakes and cakes and candy in school were really consistent across all 4 schools, and I don't think that they are right now. And I also think this is an opportunity to really teach our children about nutrition education and what are good foods for their body. And if we're giving them cupcakes in the afternoon, that's going to cause a sugar high, and they may not be doing their best learning then.
Okay, questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Are these handbooks updated simultaneously, or are they done at different times in the years? I mean,
They're updated simultaneously, typically end of August into September, when each building school council, which is comprised of administrators, teachers, and parents. In the middle school and high school, we also have student members. Then they're proposed to school committee, usually probably October. I think they were a little bit later this year, probably November. But those school handbooks are really only reviewed and updated once a year. because the setup is through each school council officially has that task to do.
If I may, I would like to add just that the assistant principals have taken on the role of working with the handbooks, and they do the lion's share of the updates, et cetera, and they do that together as a team. They look at things so that they can see that things are consistent. Clearly, this is something that we need to make sure gets into the next round of review.
It would be nice to have all of us support about that.
I do. Do you have no questions?
I'm just curious if you've also considered social media consumption and including that. I think I would just make that suggestion that I think that would be an important component.
That's a great point. Good feedback.
All right.
I'm happy to hear you talk about the social emotional edition, the mental health piece, and I absolutely agree with the social media piece. I'm curious, do we still do the testing with kids at in gym for the body mass index? And then if we do, are we doing anything with that information?
So I don't know if they're doing that in PE. I don't know that they are, but we do, as the school nurses have to report it to the state, the BMIs. It's just how many students are above 90%, how many are within normal, and how many are below for first grade, fourth grade, seventh grade, and 10th grade, and that goes in at the end of the year. So we do heights and weights in all those grades, and I at NES do it on everyone just because they're growing so much to see that if there was a question about somebody,
And then do parents get that information?
they can ask for it. We entered in Aspen.
Yeah.
They don't get letters saying that their child's BMI is elevated or below. They don't, because we don't share with the state each kid's BMI. We share like we had this many kids above the, what percent, how many kids had a higher BMI percentage.
Do you think it would be possible to do that, to be able to track a student and be able to just send an informational letter out to say your child's percentage has gone from X to, I don't know, just to get it on the radar for parents? Because that's where, well, for some students, that's where their nutrition is being given.
Yes and no. Medically, I think that it's just a little concerning if you're sending home a letter saying that a kid is obese, especially at a younger age. Is that going to cause an issue with them at home, or is that going to affect their mental health or their self-esteem? I mean, I think especially with them, a lot of the younger kids are growing so fast that they might be classified as obese, but then 2 years later,
Yeah,
they're
that's a good point.
much taller. So
Yeah.
we don't report it. I think that they do. I mean, I see it on reports that I think that the doctors do talk to them when they go. The nurse practitioners and physicians do speak with them, the parents about it, and I've seen referrals to the dietitian. But I just would be worried about causing concern for the kids.
Right, no, I agree. I asked because we used to do that, because I received them on my children, so I was just wondering, just every year you get the update of the gym assessments.
If I may, I believe that the recommendation across the state has been not to
since
because of
the
that
start.
exact reason, because of the fact that development is different in every child, and so obviously there's need for the physician of the child to speak with parents in an individual matter, but not the schools.
Okay, so I'm glad that we've stopped that.
And BMI is a sort of a flawed measurement. I mean, you can take somebody who's extremely muscular and is not obese, but they come up with a high BMI. And I think it's a very flawed measurement. I knew what it was developed for, but I can't quite remember. But it has been used for things it really wasn't intended for. I have a question. You talk about mental health. Now, under the aegis of mental health, does bullying come up? Do we have a standardized curriculum around bullying that would fall under this rubric?
It's definitely discussed in each wellness curriculum, but that's something that we review, and just because it was not explicitly noted in the policy, we felt that it should be. There should be more attention to that topic. Yes. Again, the nutrition and the substance abuse, it's all within those curriculum learning standards within a health course, but just it's really hard to find in a 5-page document. It just should be a little more prominent was what our opinion was. But I think so far, all three of these feedback, about BMI, about social media and bullying, which are related to mental health, all should be definitely at least referenced, because there are other policies about bullying, because it gets at a certain point it gets to a rabbit hole, but it could cross. What I was thinking is to cross check, see this policy for more about this. But yes, it's explicitly taught within the health curriculum of the wellness courses.
And the state has their definition of the wellness committee and stuff focuses a lot more on the physical education and nutrition.
To answer your question, because I realized I didn't quite answer it, there's nothing standardized pre-K to 12 for a bullying program, if you will. There are plenty of options. There are plenty of apps. There are plenty of, something you could purchase, to deliver. So I think that's something that we can talk about as a group.
Well, I think a coordinated approach across K through 12.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are different elements, certainly as the kids get older, but I think it's always a question we should be careful about addressing. I mean, if you take a look in the papers about twice a week, you see some kid has killed themselves and bullying is one of the factors that's brought up.
Yeah.
Through the chair, I'd like to say that there is a bullying program in grades K through 5. It is a structured program that is presented through the SEL program. It's consistent. It's done through second step. I am looking at bullying programs to be presented through the SEL program as well for grades 6 through 12. I haven't found anything consistently yet, but it is addressed through Team True, and I would need to look to see how it's addressed through Trails to Wellness, which is the 6th through 8th program. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
Now, you talk about exercise. What are we doing for that? I mean, certainly in the high school, you've got sports, but what about down at the elementary school or middle school or NIS?
So I can start, and then I can stall and buy some time to go look it up. I can turn it over to you. But there's specific language about length of lunch and length of recess at each school. And there's specific language that recess cannot be taken away as a consequence for discipline. That's verbatim close to verbatim in the policy.
Yes.
You want to add anything else?
I'm always happy to see the NES kids get more recess. I think developmentally at that age, they need a lot more time, and I think that gives them an opportunity to use their skills that they're learning in SEL to be playing outside with each other. But that's my soapbox.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do you have your...
Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, actually, I'm sorry if I made
Go
through the
ahead.
chair. When does recess stop age-wise for our students?
So officially, it's scheduled through grade 5, and I don't want to speak out of turn, but I believe it's 30 minutes.
Yeah.
For at NIS. At 6th grade, there's a 30-minute scheduled lunch period, and we have found that students tend to eat their lunch in 10 to 15 minutes. You need to provide 20. So we take students, we supervise students outdoors for grade 6 in the CPS courtyard. And you might see, if you walk out tonight, you'll see the 2 4-square courts that were just recently repainted by the grounds crew, which is very much appreciated. As the weather's gotten nicer, we've been able to take, when we have the supervision, groups of students across onto the athletic fields. We stay off the Vito Capizzo Stadium. We stay off the infield of the dirt, whether it's muddy or whether there's striping going on for a game that day. So we have set rules. But students in grades 6 and 7 get, I would say, 10 to 15 minutes. You know, they don't all take it. Some choose to stay indoors, a handful, but we offer it. That's something that Dr. Cohen actually started years ago, and we've just continued it. 8th grade, it's not as easy because we don't have the facility set up that way. There is a small courtyard right above us here. Students are outside, and I've caught students like playing hacky sack. So I don't know if you call that recess, but recently, even today, Mr. Hayden took probably 20 students out and they played soccer out on the back of the field. We just have to coordinate that with the high school wellness teachers because they might have already booked, counted on, reserved that space for a physical education activity. But it's as long as we all communicate, it's plenty of space. Just stay off the grass and stay off the dirt. Does that make sense? The stadium and the infield.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Committee discussions and votes to be taken. We are going to talk about a vote to approve a motion was made and seconded to approve the recommend $37,926,987 for the fiscal year 2024 Nantucket Education Public Appropriation, Article 8 of the 2023 Annual Town Meeting of Taxpayers. The public school total budget appropriation is recommended at $37,326,987 to
37 million.
37 million and 31,096,602 for payroll, 6,230,385 for operating expenses, and an additional 600,000 community school appropriation for payroll, and to authorize the use of the school department accounts as listed. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I think you need a roll.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 Okay. Next. So we got money to keep the place open.
The lights
Thank you.
on.
Thank you.
A vote to approve April 11th, 2023 workshop meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
A vote to approve the donation in the amount of $38,875 from an anonymous donor to the NPS Athletic Department to be used for new football helmets. And we believe the number is 80 helmets.
Wow.
So moved.
Yeah. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
A vote to approve Nantucket Public Schools and Weather Station Grant in the amount of $25,487 from the Great Harbor Yacht Club to the Nantucket Public Schools.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, subcommittee and group reports. Negotiations.
We'll meet tomorrow, negotiation prep, and then we'll meet with the teachers the day after.
Okay.
Yes, I echo that. Cape Cod Collaborative, I believe, is meeting next week, so I'll be able to report on that. Policy, we
You'll
need to set,
reschedule?
yes, we need to reschedule, so.
How about the food evaluation committee? You two are on the food committee.
We have not met in quite some time. It's a good question. I don't really
No,
know
we
where we
haven't.
stand at this moment in time. There were other, it seemed that the committee became very large, and then I don't know who was sort of charged with keeping it going, but we have not met.
Okay.
I don't know if you continue to have meetings, do you, on a separate level?
We have not recently, so
Mhm.
I will reach out to see what kind of where we stand and
Mm-hmm.
perhaps reconvene just to at least understand what our next steps are.
Right, I think that would be great.
Sure.
Thank you.
Natalie, you're up.
Just a couple updates. We have the NHS is doing MCAS testing during the month of May, and advanced placement testing is happening this week and next week. I just wanted to report that the Nantucket Golf Club Foundation awarded their scholarships to Ellie Kinsella and Wes Thornwell. So that was exciting. And then 2 events that are coming up is the Masterwork Chorus Concert, which is May 17th, and that's actually at the Congregational Church. It's the biggest concert of the year. It's like a big piece of music with different movements in it. So like there's like several different songs in it, so it's pretty long, but it's really cool. And then the CPS has a percussion concert tomorrow, and the NHS Rock Band will be showcasing our songs during that Thursday. Sorry, yeah, it's not Wednesday. It's Tuesday.
May I ask what the major work is for the masterwork?
It is it's a bluegrass. It's a bluegrass mass. Yeah, I think yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we're having Gabe.
May I add one thing? Did you get ready to say about the?
Yeah, I was gonna tell them a student from the NHS band is playing the banjo with us, which is super cool.
That's
So
very cool.
yeah,
What time is it, Natalie? 7?
6. Yeah, 6.
Thank you.
Congregational Church.
I think one thing is for the other 9 students of the 11, the golf club scholarship.
Right. They were awarded $5,000 each year, which is I don't think that's ever happened
That is the
before.
first time. You're right.
Yeah, so that was cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And when will the vocational?
They're starting, if I may, they're starting their, tomorrow is the first day of their interviews, and then they have some presentations on the 18th, and I think they'll probably make a decision right after that.
And we'll be made aware of that?
Oh, of course, absolutely.
Okay. Agenda.
So our next meeting is on May 10th. It will be a workshop meeting, discussion of vape detectors and the overall vape crisis. So if there's any particular information you would like to have shared with you, please send me as soon as possible that information. That's it.
Okay. And
The other agendas, we should probably, while we're all together, talk about the upcoming
Agreed.
meetings, just because.
If I may, I'd like to just share that May 16th, which is our next regular meeting, unfortunately, we have scheduled a facilities annual update, but our facilities director is on vacation that week. So we don't have any agenda items currently, and I wondered if you, as a committee, would like to make that a workshop to discuss and work through the superintendent evaluation and then do the final reading on June 6th, but I leave that to you to make that decision.
So do we have, I know Katie's gonna send out the forms for
Yes.
us to fill out, and you remember, you're familiar with the forms that we have to
Yes.
do?
Yeah.
It would be good, I think, if we can get those returned by the end of next week, by the 9th. No, wait a minute, I'm looking at June, sorry. Yes, the end of next week, which would be the 12th, so it would give us almost 2 weeks to get them done.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we are gonna if we do decide to do a workshop, then we would need to get together and do the
Collate
summary,
those.
yeah,
Mhm.
and then be able to give it to Beth before the workshop on the 16th.
when is the election?
Oh, I don't know.
The election is the 23rd.
23rd, okay.
I mean, I think it has to be done by this committee.
Absolutely, so it has to, yes, but does it have to be publicly presented, do you think, with that sitting committee? Or could it be with a new member, but we've already done the evaluation, we've already done it, it would just be a reading of it on the 6th?
Well, as long as it's done by this committee. I
Yeah.
mean, that's the question.
No, it will be if we get it done by the 12th. Is that a timeline that everybody can do? Yep.
Make it work.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm happy to take them, as I did last year, from you, and then I'll share them with Tim, and you can fine tune them.
I will share my evidence with everybody by the end of the day on Thursday.
That's great.
Okay. And then do we want to add the technology annual report for the 16th and then put Diane on the 6th of June?
So the 16th will not be a workshop, it will be a regular meeting, is that what your intention is?
Well-
My thought was that if you wanted to just have that as a workshop and do the reading on the 6th, we can move the technology and keep the technology at, on the 6th and move Diane to, also to the 6th. The, hold on, let me just get the agenda here, 1 second. Year-end activities and hiring updates are gonna come in the superintendent's report anyway, so those are not really agenda
Okay.
items, nor is enrollment. So we're really talking about one report, a reading of the superintendent's evaluation. We can easily move, the facilities and year-end.
Okay.
It's not gonna be a long meeting.
Yep,
Mhm.
okay,
Yeah, I think that works.
that works.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we'll keep the 16th to,
Okay, anything else? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
second.